Hi, I'm Stephen Jones. At Robert Wood Johnson, we believe citizens need to be informed about the important healthcare issues affecting their lives. That's why we're proud to support the healthcare programming produced by the CAUCUS Educational Corporation.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by PNCBANK, Bergen Community College, United Water. Making the planet sustainable is the best job on Earth. Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, the heart of academic medicine. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, and by Fedway Associates. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey, and by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Life in the townships of South Africa is a struggle. The shadow of apartheid lingers. Unemployment is rampant, the highest in the country, as is the infant mortality rate. People are cripplingly poor. About 50,000 orphaned and vulnerable children live in this area. Every household we work with is deeply affected by HIV and AIDS. The Ubuntu Center stands in the middle of Zwide Township. It is a soaring expression of our hopes and beliefs. A child can walk into the Ubuntu Center, talk with a counselor, get the medical help she needs, and receive intensive academic support.
Those are powerful pictures. The story behind it is even more powerful. The gentleman you're about to see on camera is going to talk to us about it. He is Jacob Lief, founder and CEO of Ubuntu Education Fund and the author of the book, I Am Because You Are. Ubuntu, where is this and why is it so important?
So Ubuntu is a philosophy, the idea that we are connected through our humanity, our politics, race shouldn't matter. It's that we're human beings. We should treat each other.
It's not a place.
Respect.
It means something.
It's a philosophy. It's a way of life, and that's why I named the organization that I founded 17 years ago, Ubuntu Education Fund. I thought it was such a powerful philosophy. So we work down in South Africa in an area that's riddled with just extreme poverty, and I started this organization when I was 21 years old. I wanted to prove that if you took a child who'd been raped or who'd lost their parents and invested in them the same way someone invested in me, that they can make it out. And so over the last 17 years, we've built this organization where we actually start with pregnant mothers, ensure a healthy birth, and work with these kids every day of their lives until we get them into university or employment. And we call it cradle to career.
Now, you grew up in New Jersey.
Yeah, so I was born in New York City, not far from here actually. Moved out to South Orange, New Jersey, where I lived until I was about 13 years old, and then my family moved to London.
You wind up being exposed to these horrific conditions that the children are suffering from. And what triggers in you?
So it actually began when I was in London as a 13-year-old. I was getting into a lot of trouble. I was in a big city, and I came across this free Nelson Mandela March, and it inspired me, and I started volunteering, and 4 years later, I went through...
He was in jail at the time?
Yeah. And 4 years later, I went with a group of students in 1994 to observe the country's first democratic elections. And
let's put things in perspective for folks who don't understand this. Was de Klerk in power at the time?
Yes, he was.
So de Klerk is in power at the time. Apartheid is...
just about ending.
Okay.
And we're seeing the first democratic elections where Nelson Mandela will move into power.
Mandela's in jail for 27 years.
That's correct.
I believe 27 years. The movement to free Mandela had been going on for the entire time.
Yes.
It happens. The first free elections happen, and you're right there.
As a 17-year-old, I mean, to experience that, I'd never been to Africa, and I was with a group. We were 15 different nationalities represented, and we were touring the country, meeting with your sort of neo-Nazis all the way through to your Robben Island freedom fighters, people who spent their life in jail with Mandela. And I meet this old woman, and she can barely stand, and she tells me she waited 30 hours to cast her ballot. As a 17-year-old, you think you know everything, you're confident.
Yeah,
I look at her, and I'm like, you waited 30 hours? And she taps me on my shoulder and says, no, boy, you don't understand. I've waited 85 years. And she walks away. And at that moment, I said, I don't understand. I don't know what freedom means. I don't know what democracy means. I grew up in this, but I took it for granted. And I said I wanted to become part of what they were calling the New South Africa. And that's really where it all began. So I came to the States for university and had a professor sponsor me to go back, and through some funny situations, I ended up in this one area called Port Elizabeth. And I moved in with this family and lived there for 6 months, and I just was exposed to such extreme poverty. Of course, I overly romanticized it. I knew in the back of my mind I could always leave.
Sure.
But what I witnessed were children who believed in the power of education as a ticket out of poverty, and that was inspiring. I remember one morning there, the guy I was living with, he woke me at 4 in the morning. He said, let's go for a walk. And he brings me to an area that's all shacks. In front of each shack is a child holding a brick over an open fire, and they're using it to iron their school uniform so they look proud to go to look good to go to school. And I saw this, the fire was burning in these kids, and I thought we could do something. At the same time, I knew nothing about the nonprofit world, but I saw all this money pouring in, these big aid agencies, these big foundations.
Where was the money going?
Well, it's interesting. Everyone was defining success by how many library books they'd hand out, how many cups of soup. And I'd watch, and I was looking at these little girls who'd been raped, or these kids living with no parents, and I'm thinking, a cup of soup and a wind-up computer is nice, but that's not going to get you out of poverty.
How do you find success?
So we work with these, success for us is stable health, stable employment, meaning we work with these kids every day of their lives. That's real sustainability. You know, people always ask me, what's your exit strategy? There's no exit strategy with raising kids. Right. I mean, you're with them every day of their lives. And by the way, it doesn't always work. Kids are difficult. But what does work is being there with them. If they need glasses, you don't say to them, oh, we're not a vision organization. You buy them glasses. If they're hungry, you feed them. And it's not a great innovation, but it's an old recipe. It's how you raise kids. And you stick with them the whole way, and that sustained intervention is what works.
And you're constantly raising money, aren't you?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. I saw your eyes when but you know, remember we're public television. No money, no mission, right?
You know, it's we're looking for people to invest in the long term, who understand that it's not a quick fix solution. I can't raise a child in a 12-month grant cycle. It takes a long time.
Yeah, right. 12-month grant.
I mean, that's
show us your metrics.
Listen, I mean, we play that game, and it's real, and we can measure our success. But at the same time, you have to be careful with over quantifying everything. Remember, we're dealing with human beings here.
I was going to say that.
Absolutely. And you know, raising children isn't scalable. It's deeply individualized. What worked for you didn't work for me. And there's not a one
size fits all.
Not at all.
So let me ask you this. What's the message you want to leave for those watching on public television, FiOS, and folks listening on the radio side? What is it that you want to say to everyone right now about these children?
Well, I think it's, if you invest in a cause, a nonprofit, a charity, whatever you want to call it, whether it's South Africa or the South Bronx or South Orange where I grew up in, it doesn't matter. Invest in a disadvantaged community in the same way you'd invest in your own family and afford them the same dignity. Don't ask the question, how do you reach more kids for less money? No, that's not how you raise your own children. And until we start asking the right questions, and until we sort of change the way we invest in poor communities, I don't think we're going to have an impact.
And that's the message of your book. We appreciate everything you're doing, Jacob. And
Thank
the
you,
name
sir.
of the book is I Am Because You Are. And wish there were more people like you. By the way, the foreword of the book by the great Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
An inspiring person who's helped our organization a lot and is the patron of our organization.
Been leading for a long time. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this. Thank you.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are pleased to welcome Sandra Bloodworth, who is the co-author of a fascinating book. It's called New York's Underground Art Museum, MTA Arts and Design. How you doing?
I'm doing terrific. What about you?
I'm doing great, because I'll tell you what, I'm sitting there going, the New York City subway system and art? I don't get it. And we're about to show some pictures that help us all get it. In the 1980s, the MTA, Metropolitan Transit Authority, right? Transportation Authority. Was the subway system pretty much about to collapse?
It was on the brink of collapse. I mean, in the 1980s, trains were falling apart, trains were breaking down, and stations were really in terrible condition. And of course, there was a real plague of graffiti and vandalism. And so the system had, for all practical purposes, was really on its last leg. But some really smart people got together and they figured out how to bring the MTA back. And we were very fortunate that in that vision in the mid-'80s, that art was really considered to be an important part of bringing it back.
Art.
Art.
Someone would say, just throw money at it. Just improve the infrastructure. And you and your colleagues said, no, there's more to it than that.
Yeah, the visionaries saw that if, just like when the subway was first built, it was built with an investment in ornamentation. And that investment created a place that New Yorkers wanted to descend below ground and use this new system. Well, all those many years later, when the MTA decided to put together a plan to rebuild the system, they knew that once again, that was a great place to begin.
Can we begin Astor Place?
We can. That's actually the perfect
take a
place.
look.
Now, this gives you an idea of what we were up against. Here you had this 1904 ornamentation with the Gruby beaver plaques up in the corner, brown iron spot brick that was virtually being destroyed.
Right.
And yet it was actually very durable material. So in rebuilding it, the architects looked at the bones of the station, at what was there.
That's it?
That's it. That's it today. And working with the well-known designer artist Milton Glaser, we brought art into this environment. And in many ways, Glaser really created a dialogue between contemporary art and design and that historic terracotta. His artwork really gets a dialogue going between what was there and what has come, the new.
Wow, talk about Columbus Circle, we're literally just a couple of blocks away from where we are right now on 66 and Broadway. Let's take a look at this, before and after, okay? Columbus Circle, part of the subway system. Oh, come on.
Now, that image is really right before we began the construction. You can see a little of marking at its worst, but also with the markings, the engineer markings, as we begin to rebuild. Now, and then we introduced the work of Saul LeWitt's MTA Whirls and Twirls. Now, if you know Saul LeWitt's work is, of course, very exacting. The vibrancy of his work really evokes the energy, the people that are in the station.
Let me ask you, the colors, what is that material?
That's ceramic tile.
And how durable is that?
Extremely durable.
And the ground, what do they do with the ground there?
With the granite floor?
Yeah, it's granite.
Granite floors and ceramic walls.
Oh, my gosh.
And, you know, LeWitt's work is about this exacting standard of color and precision. And for that to be interpreted into ceramic tile in such a perfect way, so close to his painting. And there you have it. For the public, they are literally in an underground museum.
An underground museum?
Yes, you are. You go to MoMA, and what do you see? Saul LeWitt. But you're in the 59th Street subway station. Think about the mid-1980s. Think about what those stations were like. And today, our customers are there, our riders are seeing a LeWitt.
Yeah. What do you think it does for people, for commuters?
I think it's about respect. You know, I can remember when I moved to New York in the 80s, and I remember what it was like. I really used the subway was really my main means and what I could afford. And it was not such a great feeling to know people are riding in cabs. And now, you know, very quickly after we started changing that environment in many ways, not just art, but in so many ways. And it really gave the respect to the people that use the system, that you deserve a good ride.
Beyond that, the concept of public art matters.
Yes, it matters. It matters a great deal. You know, museums are wonderful. They preserve what we have. They keep it. We know there is a place we can go and we can experience art. But experiencing art in your daily life says, guess what? You matter. And that's a great thing.
Interesting. That's about people. That's just not about the artist. It's about the people who experience this every day and how they feel about themselves as they are experiencing it.
Yes, that is exactly what it's about.
Well, Sandra, I can't thank you enough for sharing this story with us and and telling the story in a powerful way. Sandra Bloodworth, who is in fact the co-author of New York's Underground Art Museum, MTA Arts and Design with Bill Ayers. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. This is Art Museum right here at the Tisch WNET studio in the heart of Lincoln Center. We'll be right back right after this. Thank you so much.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We're here at the 24th annual Cohn-Resnick Foundation golf event, the Cohn-Resnick Cares event. We're honored to be here with Joe Torre, who is the co-founder of the Joe Torre Safe at Home Foundation. You may recognize him. How many years did you do the Yankees thing?
The Yankees thing?
Yeah, you were the boss.
I was the boss there for 12 years.
You loved that gig?
You know, I did, Steve, most of the time. I mean, the last 2 or 3 years were a little trying because I think it got to the point where the Yankees didn't know how to say goodbye, and neither did I. You know, it became, I remember Don Mattingly walked to my office. He was one of my coaches. And we won a game, and I wasn't happy, you know, and he just noticed a great deal of stress on my face. And it just got to the point where they really wanted me to leave, and they were finding ways to criticize what I was doing, and it got me a little defensive, and it just wasn't comfortable.
One thing you've become very comfortable talking about, well, at least from my perspective, we've been at this event. Joe's been so incredibly supportive of this event. He's talking about the victims of domestic violence and the Joe Torre Safe at Home Foundation. I shouldn't say you're comfortable talking about it, but you made such a difference in talking about it. Could you talk about how that came about and why you started this foundation, co-founded it, and the difference it's made, and also the event?
Well, I mean, it's a long story, but let me see if I can give you a little bit of
It's a powerful story.
Sure, yeah, it is a powerful story. I mean, first of all, I grew up being very nervous about going to school, played hooky a lot, afraid I wouldn't know the work, afraid to raise my hand, and all those feelings of insecurity. In fact, in high school, I didn't even go out for my, as a freshman, didn't even go out for the baseball team because I didn't know if I could make it. And I thought, growing up, and really all the way through my playing career, which people I know find hard to believe, is I had all these feelings of insecurity, and it really wasn't until the middle 90s, right before I came to work for the Yankees, that I had gone to a symposium with my wife, who was pregnant with our daughter, Allie. I mean, our daughter, Andrea, but my wife, Allie. Went to this symposium, a 4-day symposium. She was like about 3 weeks shy of giving birth. And, you know, we went to this symposium. I had no idea what it was like, well, what it was about, but she asked if I'd go with her. And, you know, at that point in her pregnancy, I wasn't about to say no to anything. And I found myself, and I realized it was like a self-help. It's called Life Success. It's still in existence. And you're trying to pretty much deal with whatever is troubling in your life. And I went in completely naive. They split us up. We went in separate groups, not in my wife's group. And I found myself after day 2 or 3 standing in front of perfect strangers, crying my eyes out, which it just struck a nerve, because what I found out when they were talking about abuse and stuff, and what young, you know, as a youngster, what things have an effect on you going forward. And after that particular day, I went back, because I'm the youngest of 5 children, and I called my older siblings, my 2 sisters, and asked about, did Dad do this and Dad do that? Now, I knew that my dad created fear in the house. I knew that. I knew that he was abusive to my mom. I never saw him hit her. He was a New York City policeman. I did see him go for his revolver in the drawer and threatening her. I did hear him throw dishes against the wall, saying, he didn't like what she put on the table for him to eat. And I saw some remnants of where he physically abused her. I did come to find out that when he found out she was pregnant with me, after having lost a child before I came into the picture, that he threw her down the steps because he didn't want her to be pregnant anymore or get pregnant anymore. So once I went through this symposium, was it powerful? Was it emotional? Sure. But it also, Steve, freed me up to realize that now I wasn't born with these things. They were created by what was going on.
The insecurities.
Yeah, all the insecurities and the fear, and everything that was going on as a child growing up. And it sort of, even though it still exists, you still have certain, hesitancies, but at least now that what went on as a child is what affected you. So I wanted to talk about it. So when we went to New York, my wife and I, when she asked me what charity you want to get involved with, and I said, how about domestic violence? And so it caught her off guard because she's one of 16 kids, so a very happy family,
sure.
Mother and father. And so and it was her idea, and my older daughter, Christina, who come up with the idea, let's do it through education. Instead of being a care provider, which we still lead people to those websites, we have safe rooms in schools, named after my mom, Margaret's Place.
That's right.
Where kids go into the classroom and have a master's level counselor, and if they want to talk about it, they can talk about it. They have their, other kids in there. Where I thought I was alone and was my fault growing up, these kids are realizing that they're not the only ones going through this.
This event, the Cohen-Resnick folks, the dollars raised in this golf outing, a significant chunk goes to the Safe at Home Foundation, Special Operations, the Warrior Foundation folks. They get a big check as well, and extraordinary story with those folks as well. The children of these great soldiers, these brave soldiers who have lost their lives, they wind up going to college with a lot of these funds. What would you say to those who want to be supportive of the Safe at Home Foundation? What do you say to those folks?
Well, what I would say to the folks is these children belong to all of us. Just because
the victims.
The victims, right? And again, children. I was never physically abused, but I was affected.
Clearly.
We need to take care of our youngsters, and we need to let them know that there's something out there for them. Because unless we give them a good education on going forward, they're going to follow whoever the strongest personality is, and it may lead them more times than not in the wrong direction. So it's our responsibility to take care of these youngsters. I'm a believer that we don't have bad kids out there. I think they do bad things. But I think they have to realize that kids their brains don't fully develop, especially boys, until they're like 25 years old. So we need to stay with them.
Joe is greeting a whole bunch of people inside who have come not just for the outing, not just to raise money, but also to meet Joe. So I have a couple more minutes with him. I want to be sensitive to that. For those folks who follow not just baseball, but marketing and branding, they know that Joe is also the representative, the official spokesperson on many levels for Cohen-Resnick. Let me ask you this. What would you say about this firm?
Well, I was thinking about that on the trip here, and we've been together like 9 years.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. I go into my office and I get on Metro North. And sometimes I sit there looking at myself on the poster on the wall. And
I see you going to Lincoln Tunnel. I see you.
Yeah, and I watch people go like this. And then
That's Joe Torre.
And I'm gone. I know I've got it. But the thing I've noticed about Cohen-Resnick, they've been a quality firm for a long, long time. but it doesn't keep them from wanting to do more and get better and expand. And they're first class. I mean, that when we decided, you know, to work with, you know, Cohn-Resnick, it was based on what the research we did, and it's a high-class operation, and
the charity.
And the charity work that they do. They're very responsible, Steve, for, you know, for who they are and what they represent.
Last question, Joe. I would be remiss if I did not ask you. Joe's book on leadership influenced me greatly. It was a bestseller. I want to ask you this: greatest leadership lesson you have learned over the years in life, not just in baseball, is?
Well, trust. Trust. I you know, as you manage, and I managed for almost 30 years. You realize that you know, you can employ all the strategy you want, but the players that you're asking to go out there and commit to what you're trying to do and what you're trying to teach is the fact that they have blood running through their veins, and we need to have understanding of each and every one of them. You can't treat them all the same. My goal is you have to treat them all fairly.
Not equally.
Because they're different personalities. So you have to know who you have to sort of boot in the rear end and who you have to pat on the back. And it's important that you know your people, so when that time comes, when the pressure's, you know, sort of bearing down on you, that you have to have pretty good indication of who that person is. I mean, David Cone was a good example. I went out to the mound, talked to him, and I say, you know, I thought he was tired. He says, I can get this guy. Well, you know what? He may not have had the wherewithal to get this guy, but knowing David Cone, he was going to find a way to do it. And that's knowing your personnel.
Yeah. Joe, thank you for this interview. And as a Yankee fan, thank you for all the great memories, and thank you for everything you do for, more importantly, for all the young people and the women who are looking for a safe place. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by PNCBANK, Bergen Community College, United Water, Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, and by Fedway Associates. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.